Yeah.
And I listen to the music he's playing in the background. He's playing Earth, Wind and Fire, Stevie Wonder, Barry White.
Hey.
And I'm like, and then I look in the audience. It's all black people, different shape, sizes, and they're doing yoga. And I'm like, Then I look at my wife and he's like, step your right foot forward. She puts her left foot forward. Now reach your right hand over the top. She's looking over her shoulder at me. She knows the male ego. She knows I'm a football player, I'm a technician. I'm like, girl, you're doing it wrong. She's like, get up and show me. Next thing you know, pop, 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 and I like it. Pop, 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 pop. Next thing you know, I'm up early myself every morning doing it without her. Like, I ain't waiting for you. But she said, I don't need to get up. I did my job. I got you up. And that's how the legend of yoga might grew. So I tell young people all the time, find a discipline, whether it's your diet, whether it's moving your body, whether it's writing, whether it's singing, whether it's helping others, serving others. After you find that discipline, you have to find love.
Yeah.
Somebody that when you BSing and that discipline gets boring, that person that loves you is not going to see all the procrastination. They're going to see that light that used to be there and it's not shining as much. And they're going to be like, hey, yo, what's up with that thing in you? They remind you to get back on your horse. So I think in terms of healing and healing our community, those are things we don't see a lot in our communities of color is structure and discipline.
Yeah.
And I don't mean just, I mean like something people are focused on and have value and see value in, and then someone to love you enough to keep pushing you towards it. So,
definitely.
yeah. That's the moment I found out when my wife was like, get your ass out of bed.
That's a beautiful story,
It's
though.
the only story I got, but that's how it started, though. People always think they thought it was football, but it was beyond that. It was deeper than that. It was something beyond that.
And sometimes that happens multiple times in our life, too. Like,
Oh, yeah.
our healing journey can restart multiple times. Because even while you were saying that, I was thinking of when you had said, sometimes it takes another person to see in you, like, hey, what about that thing that you do? I know that makes you feel better. I know this is your thing. Like, what are you doing, I've had people come into my life at some low points and be like, you still singing? You still rapping? What are you doing? How come you're not doing your stuff, Sometimes the universe brings those people to you, like we were saying earlier, to show you, like, hey, come on, let's go. Yes, Venita.
On that.
Yeah.
It's nice. The community is important, and I'm much older than everyone here, and
No, you ain't.
and I remember being a little girl, and we used to have. I'm from Hazel originally, and we used to have a schoolyard, street school, and during the summertime, the school would be out, and the neighborhood would get together. And so through the Tita program, they'd have the teenagers, be the counselors at these schools. I don't know if they do that anymore, and so I had this teacher. She was the counselor there, and she was a teacher. She grew older in her walk in life. Her name was Cheryl Catanzaro. Cheryl, I don't know if you're here, but Cheryl Catanzaro, I'll never forget her. And she was just full of love. Loved the community, loved our neighborhood. People would come from, 3-4 blocks neighborhood, come down to the schoolyard, and we play, backgammon and Cameron and go play softball with other schools. And she was just always so loving, so caring. In our neighborhood, they always called us like the poor neighborhood, and she would always want to be with us. Like every year she was there, and this went on for like 5, 6, 7 years.
Yeah.
But this counselor just stuck there and loved us and cared us. And she had this blue Camaro, and we'd all get in this blue Camaro, go to another site and play and play. And as you were saying, like the community, just having that love, having that understanding, having someone there that was, diligent about her job, her purpose, loved where she was, loved the community that she's serving, and just showed it. And to be 55 years old, I can say that, as of April 18th, thank you very much, to say that at 55 years old, that this woman 50 years ago is stuck in me, that I can still remember her name, Cheryl Catanzaro, that I can still remember how she cared about everyone that was there, is very important. So as you said, having that community, having that love, having someone to plant a seed, to say that, this is what it's about. We have to serve one another. We have to care for one another, because that grows the community.
Absolutely. Yes. If I had a free hand, I would have snapped to that, but I don't have a free hand right now. I'd have got all my snaps in. All right. Anybody else wanna go off of that question? We can totally move along too. I'll open up some space for it. And we'll go to the next question. All right. So, how do you all feel empathy and compassion play a role in healing? And are these things that can be taught? Are these things that can be learned? Or are these things that you just kind of come with your own human nature?
I'm a big person on etymology, and I haven't actually looked up the etymology of those two, but what comes to me is compass. So I feel like that is something maybe you can honor and learn and grow and mature in, because it's something like your inner space where you're on the map with people. But empathy, I do, and I have heard in many times, especially there's a day of empathy in terms of incarceration that Van runs throughout the nation, where we do challenge people to question, like, is that something that can be worked on or given or already inside someone? But I feel like empathy may be something that is just innately in someone, whereas compassion is something you can have grace and understanding and forgiveness, something you can like learn and grow from.
I like that. Yeah, definitely.
I think that it's something that you are born with. Like we can teach, and I work with kids too, and like we can teach them, you know, how to be caring and how to be kind and like do these things. And some people, I want to say, like don't have that naturally inside of them. You know what I mean? And then it does have to be like taught more, and there has to be like support around them, community around them, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's something for me, like I was definitely born with, because I always felt sad for like the earth and like animals, and I was like Captain Planet. Yes, I am like a part of the squad. And so like I just always felt this, like this is not right, like this, there has to be something better, and always felt that. And I try to teach that to the children too, even though they don't have that. They didn't come from humans that care about those things. And I was like, I want to teach them that, these children that have so much privilege and so much money, and like I want to teach them that you have to have compassion, and that the whole world doesn't look like what's in front of you right now. And so when trees are getting cut down, you know, like they feel sadness, and they're like, we have to like talk to the trees, and like we have to recycle, and like they're shaming other people for like not recycling. And you know, teaching them instead of you know, timeouts, or you know, removing them from community and being like, because you were behaving this way, you're now removed from like the circle, and you need to go to your room, you know, and teaching other ways, you know, to be like, let's redirect this, let's like find out what's going on, because kids feel the same things that we do. And I remember feeling little and not like having the voice to be like, I'm feeling scared, I don't trust this person is hurting me, and no one's listening, because I don't have that intelligence yet, I don't have that vocabulary yet. So like those things need to be taught, and they need to be given, because sometimes you don't have that. And I was really lucky that even though I wasn't given that, I was able to find that and for other people and not hurt others because I was hurting. And I did, as I got older, I was like out here like breaking hearts and like fighting.
We all have
and like toxic relationships and being like, I don't care. And it wasn't until like the earth, you know, the universe was like, no, this is not what you're supposed to be doing. You know, and gave me a kick in the ass. And, you know, but I do feel like it's something that you're born with, because even though I wasn't shown these things, I still had them.
Yeah, it was
you
still
know, for
part
others.
of you.
And I want to teach that to other people, you know, like here are the tools. You can't force someone. You know what I mean? But here are these tools, and here's what's existing around you. What are you going to do about it? Can you do anything? Are you able? Are you willing? Those are things that also play in.
And a lot of it starts, you know, young like that too. Like I, you know, as well as you know, like I work with kids. I've worked with young people from 2nd grade all the way up until like early 20s. And maybe it does get harder as you get older, because I think as you're a young person, as you're a child, you're a little bit more malleable in like your thought process and the things that like you'll accept. You know. But even sometimes some people can only be compassionate or show empathy to the things that they can understand. It's the things that they haven't experienced or that haven't happened to them yet that they can't empathize with, or they can't show, you know, compassion towards, because they don't have that lived experience, which I think that gets difficult, you know, sometimes too. But yeah.
Something is blocking that.
Yeah.
That, you know, it's all about like maybe you're born this way, but maybe you're not, you know, which like how can you explain a lot of the horrors that are happening in the world? You know what I mean? Where someone decides that they're going to trigger warning, shoot up a school, you know, there's something there that was not, you know what I mean? Like that I was born with this, that I'm not going to do that, because that's like, evil, or like I don't want to hurt anybody, but like other people are like, yes, I want to hurt people and make a conscious decision to do this. You know what I mean? So I think that that's where we're like, can this be taught? Are you born with it? Is it the nurture versus nature?
Yeah.
You know, so I think that I was born with that light, and I'm so grateful for that. And I think that sometimes because of trauma, I'd like bash out my own light and like hurt other people.
Yeah.
And, you know, but I always was like, oh, that's wrong. Like I felt bad after, and like remorse,
Afterwards, yeah.
you know?
Like, after I did the mean stuff, I'd be like, but Jazz, like for real, like you don't feel good now, you know? Yeah, I feel that. Anybody else want to add to that?
Something just popped in my head just because of etymology, because of the word, what you were just saying too about how sometimes you want to smash your own blessings or smash your own, you know. I started thinking about one of my favorite stories, and I ain't even a religious dude. You ain't never gonna catch yoga mic in church. It costs too much. But I read the Bible a lot. I talk about it a lot with my pops, because as he gets older, he's getting close to the point where he realizes his time is up. And what brings him joy now is to sit and build with me and bring back his perspectives of these stories. We sat on my porch one day, my father's 78 years old, and we talked about Moses, and he said, you know, Moses never made it to heaven, bro? And I was like, dang, Pops, that's me. He's like, what you mean? I was like, I make heavenly exchanges on these massage tables, and people get up like, yo, am I high? Like, you just worked on me for an hour and I feel high. Like, your hands are magical, you should insure them. Who massages you? And I go, nobody. And they go, but, and I say, nah, I just don't like being touched. And then I tried to find different ways to like explain, how could I be the massage man, but I don't like being touched? And I picked up a book called Touched by the Goddess. And I thought it's a body workers book, so I thought it was gonna give me techniques, and you know, like I'm a football guy, I thought it was gonna show diagrams. But one of the things that stood out to me the most was the author really went in on how the language of touch is no longer spoken properly or at all, if any. I mean, there's kids out here that, I mean, there was a 73-year-old woman blown away in Dorchester the other day, and people just went on like, this is supposed to happen. That's how numb the brains and minds are, these youth, because they weren't hugged as little kids.
Yeah.
Because the teacher wanted to hold them when they were throwing a fit because they were malnourished or ate a whole bag of Takis and an Arizona tea for breakfast. And that's all they had. Now they're crashing at 2 in the afternoon. Like, a teacher could have just held them, but teachers are so afraid. And other humans, so that language is being, that language is being muted, and we're seeing the fallout of it. So that's when I thought of Moses, like I myself, I know the benefits of getting regular body work. I have friends that are like, dude, I'll trade with you, you ain't gotta pay. I got people that come to me like, we'll pay for you to get a treatment, but I haven't. And I tried to figure out why I'm like that, and it was my massage teacher, who was actually a trained Ayurvedic healer as well. He said, yo, you come from Roxbury and you play football your life. You were doomed to not let anybody into your personal space. You're not letting, as soon as somebody gets close to you, you're putting your hands up by hook or by crook, by your PTSD or your training. So if we can train ourselves to be armored 24 hours a day, I think we can spin the clock around or flip the coin over and start teaching how to be more empathetic and compassionate, but it has to be modeled. You know, it has to be modeled, and I think that's the thing. Our society will say one thing, and as soon as you finally get the kids to pay attention, you'll show them another thing, and I think that's when kids are like, so it takes us, and it's no coincidence that most of us work with kids, and they probably say, you're the realest teacher. I like you around because you tell the truth. Am I lying? That's probably all the feedback we get, because we're that voice, we're those poor righteous teachers, that 5% that's going to teach the deaf, dumb, and blind.
Yeah. Like healers, like you said, that to kids, not in like a weird way, not saying like that, but like attracted to working with children is because like there's something that our inner child had experienced some type of trauma or some type of experience. Absolutely. You know what I mean? So it's there all the time, and we're constantly like talking with it, especially being a creative also, like choosing that life, like that is my inner child just playing. And you know, I try to, especially when I make mistakes being a musician, I'm in the studio, I'm like, why am I, and I talk to myself in the third person, why is she not hitting the notes? Like, you know, like, so I think it's like being gentle with that voice too. Like, would I talk to a kid like that? Like, you're not hitting the notes. Like, I would never say that, and I would never be like, you're not doing this. And I think that's really beautiful, that how even despite some of our traumas, like we're still able to tap into that empathy that's there, and I believe born with, and try to give that to other people and be the model. Even though I didn't have a model,
Yeah, I think we recognize too, like, one thing I always tell my students is be the person you needed when you were younger.
Right.
Like, whatever that means, like, go out, be the person that you needed when you were younger. I decided I wanted to be a teacher my senior year in high school. Like, as a senior, I was like, you know what? I'm going to go to school. I'm going to be a teacher so that I can be the person that I needed for kids like me. As a kid, I was a child when I decided that. Realistically, 17, 18 years old, you're a kid still. Sorry, y'all. You're a kid still. You know, so a lot of us have that inner child, or even when we are children, we realize that we have to do something about what is happening or what has happened, you know, and we bring that light around with us. Go ahead, Miss Venita.
Yeah, I just wanted to piggyback on the young lady here. We have internal family systems, and it was created by a gentleman named Dick Schwartz, who's worked with a lot of couples. And we have the self, the self, but we also have the internal family systems of our 8-year-old, our 4-year-old, our baby, our 13-year-old, and they are there to protect us. So you said that, oh, I feel like I'm talking in the third person. Well, no, you're talking to self. You are talking to yourself. And this particular person of yourself, this part of you, is talking to you, or you're talking to that part. And I think that's important. And so in the field of counseling, you know, that's internal family systems, IFS, we're starting to talk about the traumas, the child that was traumatized, and how we can heal that part of us so the whole self can become whole. And not give that away. We don't want that part to be banished. We want to embrace that part and say, good job, part. You protected me so we could go on to whatever it is that we're doing. We never want to give a part of us away. We want to embrace that part and say, you struggled, you worked hard, thank you for being there, as we move on. There's a movie, one of my favorite movies is Sybil. And Sybil, you know, had multiple personalities. Well, we all do too. We all have parts of us that come out. The way I act with certain people, I don't act with other people. This part doesn't do what the other part does at that time. So there's parts of us that are there for the reason and for the season, and we have to embrace that.
Definitely. There's a book that y'all reminded me of that I read that I don't know if anybody here has read it, but it's called Fear by Tita Nahan. He just passed, which was very sad. But yes, the book that is right there on that table. Yep, it is. It's so good. I began reading it after I had like multiple traumatic events happen within like the span of like 3 months, and it has an exercise in it where you're supposed to envision your inner child, like holding a teddy bear, like you're supposed to meditate on this and look them in the face and just say, I'm sorry, and I'm here for you, and hold them. And it was like, talk about cracking another piece of me open. I was like, okay, I love you, I'm sorry. Like, but it was so powerful, and just this visualization of your, you know, childhood self, and just looking back to that child and saying like, I'm here and I'm gonna protect you and you're okay, and let's do this now, like let's continue to move forward, was very, very huge. So I recommend that book to anybody who wants to read it.
Real life stuff like that, if I could share. I don't want to feel like I keep telling too many stories, but y'all are waking up stuff.
That's what we here for.
So Easter weekend, just to shout out my team, right? Shout out to the group that runs this group called Who's Got Morale. It's run by Dr. Raina Barencio and her husband, Don Core. They did a women's retreat in March because they said that represented more of the moon energy. And my wife went to that and she came back like just kissing me and hugging me. And I was like, well, did y'all take mushroom? Did y'all take ayahuasca? Did you, what type of, because usually when you go on these retreats, they have some sort of like special elements. She was like, no, we didn't, it was dry. I'm like, she said, but we did many exercises. And you guys are up next because you guys got Easter. And I'm like, wait, y'all didn't get high? It's like, we ain't gonna get high. She was like, I don't know what the men are gonna do. So peep gang, they brought us into this thing. And of course, we didn't use sacraments either. We chose not to because they wanted us to actually remember and not blame it or say it was the sacrament that made us remember. So at first I was like, no, but now I'm like, yes, because I was able to actually remember everything piece by piece. They had us do a bunch of different exercises that would test our macho. Like one of them, they gave us gallons of water. It was like, you have to hold them with your arms extended, but you just can't extend them down. They could be out, up, in front of you. And the first one, they didn't even tell us why. They just played music. And all the guys, then they shut the music off and started laughing and said, we never told y'all how long you have to hold it. When in your mind as men did you think you had to compete? We just wanted to show you how that's always there. Ooh, now, like here's the game. One could be anything you want, and the other can be anything you want. And you can drop them at any time, but you gotta be ready to tell us why. So I picked family, job. At one point, got too heavy, dropped the job, I can get a new job, can't get a new family. And we kept building from there. As the night got darker, I started noticing, now hindsight, they started adding deeper shadow work. And they kept asking after every single experiment, who wants a gift, who wants a gift? And we didn't know, because everything was kind of, so everybody, so finally my curiosity got to me around 10:30. I don't know if I was just tired, and I was like, I'm tired of hearing about, so I said, I'm curious, what is this gift? They said, no, either you want it or you don't. And I was like, well, my curiosity is telling me to just say I want it. And I asked the elders, because it was older guys, I said, is anybody, I don't want, they said, no, you go ahead, because everybody was tired. They said, you go in another room. They took me in another room. And I heard them moving furniture. Now, without being too raunchy, I'm like, yo, we got some dancers coming in or something? It's like, it's been a long time since I had some fun like that. But I heard them moving furniture and whispering, and I'm going, what's going on? And one of the facilitators asked me, he's like, you remember those 4 things? And I can't speak for everybody in the group, but the 4 things that they asked us all individually throughout the night, what are 4 things that make you freeze up like a deer in the headlights? As a man, 45 years old, the 4 things that freeze me up are guilt, shame, depression, and I wasn't gonna say this, but I started looking at the statistics of how many black men are committing suicide, and I had to be honest and say, I thought about ending it a few times, and I thought I was a sucker for thinking that, and I wanna cry now for thinking about it, but I said, these are the things that stop me. Even when I'm having a great day, one of these things could fall in front of me, and I'll stop and pay all attention to that. They was like, we got something for you, come on. I went in the other room, there was 4 big dudes with Taekwondo pads on. Like, this dude's guilt, that dude's shame, that dude's depression. And they were my friends. You gotta fight them. And I was like, for what? Here's when they threw the monkey wrench in. Pick one of the younger guys in the room to be you when you was a kid. Put him 30 yards over there. Pick one of the elders to be that grandpa you keep saying you wanna be. So you get through these 4, you get to say anything you want to these 2. Wow. First round, I'm like, these are my friends. They're gonna take it easy. They beat the living crap out of me. And I was like, all right. Second round, try some more football moves. I got 2 guys under control and the other 2. But at that point, I was clawing my toes in the ground so much. I had cut my toes. They had pushed me into the back, so I had split up the heels. I'm bleeding all. Like, they're gonna call it, I'm bleeding. They're like, nah, dog, you in too deep. Let's go. Then they started calling me all kind of things I didn't like a horrible dad, and saying I can't keep my word, I'm a liar. I lost it. I went to a place I probably haven't been since I was in college, like one of those drunken fights where you gotta fight your way out of a club and get home and lick your wounds. I got through, and then I didn't even know what to do when I got through, because I got through and I was like, and I saw the younger version of me, I ran to him and I just knelt down and was like, I am sorry. I blame you for everything that I do as a grown man and you was a kid trying to maneuver through. Drug life, gang life, hood life. My man Heem is here, he'll tell you, our block was beautiful when we was kids. Then crack hit and a lot of people left. And we had to stay there and wonder, where's all our friends, what happened? So me being able to talk to that younger version of myself and say, it's not your fault, it felt like something just, and I was like, whew, and it was like, there's your gift.
Wow.
And I was like, what?
Made me emotional.
What? But,
I need to go on one of these.
Yeah, that was
retreats.
powerful.
We're
That's
gonna
powerful.
need to talk, because I need to know where to find all.
And that's why I wanted to add that, because people say, we're talking about all this healing. Where can we go? It's right. That retreat was right in Roxbury. It wasn't in the Berkshire somewhere. It wasn't in. It was in a beautiful home. It was right in Roxbury. So, you know.
I want to say, I think that, you know, the sad thing is that to have a retreat, why do we have to go so far? This is all about community, right? We're talking about, you know, cultural healing and community. It has to be there, right there, in your face, not where you thought it wouldn't be.
Yeah.
Because that's where the love can begin.
Amen. All right.
Fortunate to find like a counselor, you know, and not just like, you know, going to retreats or finding like spiritual guides. Like I stumbled across this woman because I, was fighting and being physical with people because I was so angry. And now I'm like, you probably look at me like, no, she didn't. I did. Like, I used to put this hair up, Vaseline my face, and be like, let's go. And so
I felt that deep in my soul.
yeah, like, but it's still there. It's still there, so don't test. No.
Come on.
She's still there, and I like that she's there and she's ready because she's like my little like protector, But like even counseling, like it's really. I was saying, like, I don't like people touching me either without consent because of trauma. Like, don't come into my space, don't touch my body. And being a singer, people think that they can just be all in your space after you perform. And it's like, I'm exhausted. I just gave you all of my energy. I need to go recharge. And you're touching my body. And so, having a counselor, I was really lucky. Shout out to Sheila. She's a trained shaman. She's like a healer also, and she's a psychic. So for me, I gave her permission to use these things during my treatment. And she took me on a guided meditation to talk to my inner child. And let me tell you, I've never cried so hard in my life. And not realizing that, like, oh, this poor girl, you know what I mean? And she was so cute. Like, I was so cute. And just like, I just want to love her and I want to protect her the same way like I protect these other children that I work with. And so heal your inner child and find those resources. And it's hard, right? Like, go find it, like, not like that, but like reach out and, if we found it, we're happy to share with you. And sharing resources.
We're actually, we're going to have a outreach of resources for everybody who's tuned in tonight, which is very exciting. And right now we're gonna take a quick intermission for about 3 to 5 minutes. We've talked about a lot. Y'all are just, I am feeling so inspired and so just happy to be here with you all and building community with you all. And I really hope that y'all are feeling the same way. Those of you who are tuning in, we'll be back in about 3 to 5 minutes. Thanks. Okay. All right. You good? Yeah. Thank y'all for tuning in with us, and welcome back to Culture Talks, the Art of Healing. We are going to transition right now to take some audience questions. We appreciate all of you who have been tuning in with us, who have been commenting on the live, who have been sharing our posts. We love y'all. We appreciate y'all. And to show that appreciation, let's take a look at some of these questions that we have from y'all today. So the first one is from Les Wild One on Instagram. I hope I said your Instagram handle the right way. What was the hardest accountability you had to take for your healing that you know you didn't want to face, but it's like, all right, if I heal it, I get back to myself? That's open to anybody.
I know exactly what that is. That's Jada. Appreciate her. She wrote that on the page. I would say it was a turning point when I moved to New York and I was separating, like growing very distant from my mom and my brother at the time. There was a lot of like issues going on. And you know, when you're young and stubborn, you're like, I'm just gonna give the silent treatment. I'm gonna do what, you know, I felt she should have been doing with me. Like, I'm just gonna give her what she gave, you know? And like, I had a moment when my mom texted me and she was like, I was like 26. Struggling in New York. She's like, coming out of the gym, she's like, wow, Chrystian, at your age, I was raising four kids, but really she was raising me and my brother as a 3 and a newborn, and her 2 siblings, which is my aunt and uncle, at 12 and 13. My mom was 25, 26, you know what I mean? So I'm thinking, and that broke me into a space where I was like, wow, if I need my mom to be a mother that I need to produce and be the daughter that she needs, because it's more of a generational thing where we weren't connecting. There was a lot of just like, I think there's just a lot of intimacy and wounds when it comes to a mother and a daughter that we don't really sit and question and talk about. And because of certain generations, there's a lot of secrecy, or we don't want to go down certain paths, where that triggered me and my mother to develop and bond in a different way, where we came as souls to each other, where it's like, it's not this title and this arrangement of like, you're my daughter, so you gotta listen to everything I say, and there's no room for, you know, learning and acknowledgement. And we had to have that level of separation for her to realize, like, at the end of the day, I'm an individual. Like, yes, you birthed me here, you brought me, you were a portal, but the decisions I make and the choices I make are gonna be very different than what your idea is of me and what you want from me. And I feel like that was a huge turning point when it came to my healing. Like, it's still a part of my healing. Like, I can see the generational like wounds or traumas that come from both lineages of the matriarch. And I find that we don't realize how cell development is actually passed down when it comes to emotion and memory. And there's a lot of memory there, and we don't acknowledge that, especially in the Black community. And we have to see how those things, you know, started when it comes to like housing and, you know, forms of help in the government, and how that separated man and woman in certain aspects. And like, I'm a product of that. So seeing and having compassion and empathy for my mother in those times, and realizing like she was doing the best she could at, like, I couldn't fathom to be raising my own siblings, teenagers, and as well my own children at the same time, and then trying to figure it out and find out who you are. So it just brought me to a level of like understanding with all of that.
I can totally identify with that in so many ways. My mama knows, she probably tuned in right now. But you know, I tell my students all the time too, because they're going through that right now. They're seniors in high school. Shout out to class of 2021. I love y'all. But they're, you know, dealing with a lot with their parents right now. And I tell them all the time, you know, like, you're your own person, and, you know, you're going to continue to be your own person. And you also have to remember, like, your parents are people, and your parents are people who experience some things, and you don't even know what they are yet. Like, you might have lived through some of them, like, a little bit, but you don't know until you know, you know? So yeah, that's definitely something that I think young people should definitely think about. But I think we learn, especially as we get older, and a lot of times it's men with their fathers and women with their mothers, we start to realize, like, oh, okay, so I get it, you know? Yeah, absolutely.
Before I actually answered it, because I love where you took it, is 2 names I'm gonna throw out, 2 authors, and you're gonna be like, Khalil Gibran the prophet. What's your take on parents? Those kids come through you, but they don't belong to you, right? And Don Miguel Ruiz, his 4 agreements are deeper than just like, yo, certain kids, man, like I'm teaching 8th grade and I'm like, y'all at the moment where the book was literally written for y'all. Y'all are seeing agreements that you had to make with your parents based on whatever economic status or living status or cultural status you had. Now you're pushing back. A good parent will see it as development. A not so good parent will be like, what you say to me? Right. I mean, I get it. I had to have said that to my kids a few times because they came without class or they came with a little bit too much rah-rah in their voice. But never did I ever see it other than them trying to develop. That's why one's about to finish Dartmouth College. That's why one's about to go in Suffolk. And I got one who's 14, like, I'm gonna build a few robots and end up at MIT. Because we understood that those agreements are important, they go 2 ways. So for us to be able to see it now, that's the whole adage too. Again, coming out that good book, that when you was a kid, you thought as a kid and did as a kid, but when you become an adult, you're able to look back and be like, dang, my mom's was up against it. So it's good for us to always be able to hear these stories, because as I'm listening to y'all stories, those are the words and things that are popping into my head, and I'm thinking, how can I continue this wave of teaching kids as they develop, that it's not personal, it's just a development, and the parents need to know that too.
Grace. Definitely.
The relationships too, like for me, I was like, what is it inside of me that is attracting unavailable narcissistic partners? That there's something within
Say it one more time,
me.
Genie.
If you're out there, no, I'm just kidding. No, there was something within me that was attracting unavailable narcissistic partners. And I was like, I'm so beautiful and I'm so dope. Why is this happening to me? You know what I mean? But it was something that was still, like, go back to that inner child, was like accepting little crumbs. And I was happy that I got to a point in my healing was like, I'm too bad for that. Like, I am too dope for that. You know what I mean? So what is inside of me that is attracting that? Do you know what I mean? So I think taking accountability for that. So it's not always like, why is this happening to me? You know what I mean? It's like, yes, ask that question, but like not in a way that is like, that you have to hold a mirror up and be like, what I'm attracting is a reflection of me at this time in my life. And so like, what is it that I look at the partner and I'm like, what do I see of myself in that person? Do you know what I mean? And so, so like that's where I'm at right now. So please get in my DMs. No, just kidding. No.
That's the tough part.
I am like, I'm healing myself, go away.
I feel that. It's hard to hold a mirror up to yourself. And that's the part with like healing looks really like pretty, right? And it looks like sage and Palo Santo and crystals and flowers. And
it's boogies coming out of your nose.
I know, right?
Like
at 3 o'clock in the morning.
It's your hair's falling out and you're like, why is this happening?
Exactly. And it's holding that mirror up to yourself to say like, okay, like, this happened. What was the purpose? What was I doing? What was inside of me at the time? How do I take that outside of me and get rid of it so that it doesn't happen again? Like, what was my part that I played in this, you know?
I've experienced like, physical and emotional abuse from partners, and I've also done this. So not in a way where you're like taking responsibility for that, because no one deserves that.
Right. No.
It's not, that's not saying, well, because my inner child is hurting, I deserve to be treated like this. That's what makes you stay and forgiving and attracting the same person. You know, so it's like, I need to love this part of me a little bit more and so that I'm whole in myself, so that no one can can fill anything inside of me. They're just bringing their greatness too. You know, so for me, it's like traveling alone now, like safely, because I'm like, no, I can only travel if I have a partner or a friend with me. And like, I can only go do these things if I have a partner. I can only buy a house if I have a partner. Like, no, I got friends. And like, we're doing that intergenerational, we don't have intergenerational wealth, so we're going to do it with each other. Like, it doesn't have to be a partner to complete you, and you are already whole.
Share me with me. That's you know what I'm saying? I love
think that's
that.
important what you said, because I think that self-love is so important, but we're not taught that. We're taught that when you feel bad, let me give you something to eat.
Baby,
right?
listen.
Let's go shopping. You know, all these external things that are supposed to satisfy you. There's not a point there where we're learning there's boundaries, and there's boundaries with people, but there's also boundaries with self. And that creates all this other stuff.
Speaking of boundaries, I started writing a letter to my future partner. And with my boundaries and what I'm bringing with my trauma. Do you know what I mean? Like, this is here, and this is always going to be a part of me.
Yep.
And I'm happy that it's there because it protects me.
Yep.
But I don't want it to inhibit me.
Yep.
You know, so like, I'm already writing a letter to this person. Like, these are my boundaries, and this is what I crave as a human, and these are the things that I deserve. You know what I mean? And so like, that can be helpful too, because then you're like, oh, I wasn't getting that. If you look back on past relationships, like, you were just settling and accepting. You know?
And it also gives you something to look at too, of like, okay, is this person, do I want to be involved in the love that this person can give? Like, are these things being provided to me? They're not? Nah, okay. You know, it gives you something to visualize and look at once you get into that new relationship.
And I will be like, here you go,
Yeah.
ma'am or sir.
Yeah,
Here
there
you
it is.
go. Or whoever they, here you go.
I love that.
Providing the boundary training though. Like, look at the word boundary. We talking about words. People hear the word boundary and they think gates, fences, barbed wires. But what if that boundary is there to protect the things that are valuable to
Yeah.
you? Like, that was, speaking about accountability, I lost a lot of money my first 2 years as a yoga instructor because I was afraid of the accountability of asking for help. I'm from around the way. I found this pack, this thing that I can bag up and make money. Literally, the first class in my teacher training is called Learn to Bag That Up. Like, people come and think they're coming to this yoga retreat. We're getting 200 hours of learning from Yoga Mike. Yo, you here to do business, right? Yeah. It ain't gonna be pretty. Learn how to put that money in the bag first. You don't charge the same, right? You are, exactly.
Yeah.
Another thing, you don't have to take less, right? So I used to hide it. Like, imagine you find a bag of money in the hood. I'm not telling nobody I got this. Instead of saying, hey, I got a couple of people I trust, let's invest this money. So when I found this beautiful yoga thing that I can make money off of, I lost a lot of revenue the first 2 years because I'm like, I don't want nobody to take it from me or mess it up. Yeah, it's like, dude, we gotta open you up.
That's not what we gave that.
So that right there for accountability, I say, don't be afraid to say you need help and you can't do it all by yourself, and that's the best way to connect.
Thinking of like your health also, like how you were saying, like you were able, instead of being like, oh yeah, something is wrong with me and I'm gonna accept this medication, like you were able to hold yourself accountable and being like, I need to eat better and like change, not even just eating better, just like changing my body. You know, like it's up to me to do this. You know, even though you have these conditions that are there, they're real, like how can I, instead of accepting this, that's like huge. Because I probably would have been like, yes, give me all of it. Like I'm scared, you know, like I'm gonna die and I'm scared. Yes, and you know what's best. And like you took accountability, like, no, I know what's best for me. And that's pretty dope.
And you know, building off the nutritional lens is, as far as my healing, like I've seen things come out of my body that, you know, you couldn't find on the internet. You know, like every hole I was born with, something's coming out, like, and part of me is looking at it and, you know, I'm kind of fearful, like, how did that get in there? But then the other side is I also don't want it there, so let's do this again.
Right.
You know, and you keep, and you go through it, and then it starts to be less and less and less, and then you start, you know, like I went jogging, I'll sneeze, and it's like a handful of mucus, people driving by, beeping the horn, like, give me weird looks, and it's like, you know, you can't plan for those things. And then, you know, time goes on, and I felt like hollow. You know, I felt like I could definitely breathe easier, but then I started getting in tune with like each system in the body. And then I started feeling that, you know, the passageways are open, you know, so I gotta keep this going. And then if you ate something that you didn't need, it would affect you so much more that your body rejects it before it even starts to digest. And then, you know, it keeps, you know, you keep going that direction. And then the hardest point for me was, I felt like I cleaned my colon. I was used to fasting. I was alkaline for, you know, several years. I felt good, but my eyesight was the last thing that I said, you know, this is, because of the diabetes at the time, I was losing my eyesight. And I had to wear my glasses because, you know, I was commuting to, I was getting my master's degree at the time. I was commuting, I got to see the signs, I got to, you know, I can't get lost. I got to see I couldn't tell if the car was right there or 100 feet away. At night. So I did that, and I started looking up, you know, I started getting herbs, and I always use myself as my first experiment, just with everything, just to see how a healthy person would react to it, how someone else, I always experiment myself first. And it got to the point that I was getting ready for my final exam, and they said, you can do it, you know, open book. I was like, all right, perfect. You know, I'm past, and my eyesight, I couldn't see anything. And what happened was, I was doing a lot of herbs for my brain, right? Just for brain health, because I'm not getting healthy fats from the ordinary foods. I'm consuming herbs, I'm consuming these things, but I'm getting rid of mucus like every time I blow my nose, whether I feel something or not, you would feel it come from the center of your head out. And what happened was that the mucus was moving down, and to the point that I could see like different shades of gray, but I couldn't see like clear. And here I am about to take a final to get my master's degree, and I ended up calling my teacher through voice text, and we connected, and he allowed me to take my final, and I had to sit there and verbalize everything on the computer, so it typed it for me. So I had to take my final exam to get my master's degree blind. I couldn't even see what I was typing.
Wow.
So I said, after that, a few days went by, I could open the window and I can feel the sensation in my eyes, and I had to close it. It was like I couldn't be in the light too much. But I felt like I did everything else, and the one thing that I was forgetting, I'm reading books about herbs, I'm using my eyes, and that's the one thing that I didn't focus on. And that ended up being the first sign that I was sick, and that was the last thing that I was able to heal. So it just shows how it came, full circle. But I wish it happened the next week, but it happened but it showed that I was right, that I can memorize things at a high rate, that I didn't have to write things down. And then that's how I got into writing books.
Dope.
And this is how I got into it, but it was hard, like saying I passed my final, I got my master's degree, I passed my finals blind, right? Because I was technically legally blind, I couldn't see my hand in front of my face. But I was getting rid of everything, and once that happened, it's been completely clear from there. I still do regular maintenance, but that was like the last point. And now I'm just able to maintain and just watch what I'm doing and take my time. But then now it's more regular maintenance as opposed to I need to do this.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So.
Wow.
There's no testimony without a test.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right. Wrap it up.
Right.
Yep.
Actually, Venita, I have a question for you from our viewers, and then we are going to do our last question of the evening for everyone to answer. So, Venita, Yolanda from Facebook asks, how do you approach someone you care for and tell them they need to seek professional help for their either mental state or addiction? How do you approach someone and tell them that they need to seek professional help?
That's a tough question because people don't want to look at themselves as if there's something wrong with them, and we've all, including the counselor, needs a counselor, and people, even in my journey, have said, you should do this, you need to change this, you need to change that. And it's just all about evolving into a better person. And so sometimes we just have to be honest. Honesty can be the best policy. Telling the truth can help somebody set themselves free. So just being honest with someone and saying, this is what I'm noticing, this is what I think could help you. What do you think? I think, especially in communities of color, everybody say, I ain't crazy. I don't need to go no counseling. Nothing wrong with me. Well, we got generational.
I don't like to talk.
We got generational stuff. So
Yeah.
it's not real. I've been doing this for years. There's nothing wrong with me.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So I think that just being honest with someone, and if you can't do it, you can send someone else to do it that the person may trust to do it. But I believe that counseling is very important. Again, the counselor needs a counselor. We bounce, as clinicians, we talk to each other about our cases and different things like that. And, we're talking about some resources like Psychology Today is a good place to find someone. I know that the primary care doctors are now hooking up with different clinicians in the community. And so, and even some of these healers that are out here also, being able to talk to them. So just being direct with someone. And I know that a person, when you're trying to speak with someone regarding mental health, they may feel that you're picking on them, or you think there's nothing wrong with you, and they get combative and defensive. But it's all about love.
Yeah.
It's all about love. And I think right now with mental health, we've come a long way with mental health, and especially in the BIPOC communities, in communities of color, and people are being more receptive
Yeah.
especially with the COVID going around, especially with people dying unexpectedly. Everyone needs a chance to speak with someone. So yeah, just being able to just go to that person saying, I think that this could help you,
Yeah.
you know, and giving them a number or giving them a website. There's a website called Therapy for Black Men and also Therapy for Black Girls.
Speaking of therapy with black men, one thing I learned at that retreat too, how they got me there. They know I never turn on a job. So the brother Don Court said, I need you to facilitate with me. So I showed up thinking I was gonna work. He was like, nah, you done the subjects. But what I found to be less abrasive was that the actual facilitators, when they wanted to add an idea, they would say something like, would it be okay if, or do I have your permission to? So when you're speaking to somebody, you're saying, I yield to your power in this situation. I'm not trying to take that away, but can I add to this? And I'm perfectly okay with you saying F off right now, and no, I don't want, but I'm asking you to show you how much I respect this moment and you in this moment. So I'm not trying to judge you, I just want to know if it's okay for me to add something. If not, it's cool. But that's one thing I picked up from that weekend. I was like, that's powerful.
Yeah.
Especially with you like working and doing body work on people,
Oh,
especially
man.
people that
I gotta
experience traumas, to be like, for me, like I remember going to yoga classes and touching my body without permission. Like I'm doing my downward dog. Like I'm fine.
Yeah.
I'm not doing it correct. Ask me if you can adjust my body. Don't come behind me like
Yeah, we
that.
usually have like a little ticket or something, or you can put in front of your mat like a little placard or something that says, I choose not to be adjusted at all. I'm in my own thing. And that's one thing I teach people when they become students of mine, not to practice yoga, to be a teacher, is if you're gonna open somebody up, you damn well better know how to put them back better than you found them, or you're gonna have problems. So we gotta be careful how we choose therapists, including yoga teachers. A lot of these yoga teachers just want a piece of money, but they didn't do what they needed to get that real work done, so be careful.
And benefiting off of your ancestral
That
pain.
too.
Like be careful. And I always stick like don't learn your ancestral ways from people that benefited from your ancestral pain. Like you have to be very mindful about the medicine you're doing and where it came from.
That might
and
be one of my favorite quotes of the night.
People, you know, if you're using because medicine should be available for everybody. There shouldn't be patents on medicine. So I think that, like language and being aware, like I got this from this tribe and I recognize I cannot over cultivate this herb or this plant because it puts them in danger. But that's a whole
Another panel.
I love it. I love it.
language.
Oh, we're going to end up doing a part 2. Y'all can believe that one. All right, so I'm going to actually take it to our last question for the night, which actually isn't even really a question. It's more, I want to give y'all the opportunity to speak to the folks who are tuning in with us right now and listening to everything that was just said here on this panel. If you could give one piece of advice to our viewers at home who are maybe apprehensive to starting their own healing journey, or are on the fence, or are getting ready to get started, or are leaving this conversation inspired, what would be a piece of advice that you would give to somebody who was getting ready to embark on their own journey, or scared to embark on their own journey? Go ahead.
I'd say gentleness. Mike brought this up a little bit briefly, and I think it's a level of masochism we have in our culture of accepting and almost liking pain. So I feel when we're going to go into that journey and to that work, and as you said many times, it's not as glorified and pretty, sometimes very painful. So I feel having that grace and gentleness, because I come from a very masculine-driven household. So for me, it was like, toughen up, do what must be done, get it done. Like if you want it done right, do it yourself. So it's like a lot of that, culture and that talk, it's very rough, and we need to be more gentle and more, kind to ourselves. So I'd say that, patience and gentleness.
Love that, yes.
Grabbing that baton in the books for massage, because I'll be teaching at a massage school in September. So I'm looking at how do I teach it to people. One thing I had to go back and remember was the very first lessons, like when you can't find a certain part that you want to massage, the natural inclination is to push harder. They say the easiest way to find that thing that needs the help is to ease back a little and let the tissue push back against you. That's a hard thing for people to do in general. We want to push more and go faster when we can't find, but sometimes you got to sit back. So if there was something I could leave, just piggybacking off that energy, is something I read the other day. I was reading a book about the 5% is the nation of the gods and the earth. Peace to the gods, right? And they said the founder, Allah, Father Allah, Brother Clarence 13X, said the wealth of a nation is the youth. continue to support the youth and feed them the right things.
Yes.
So if I could say anything to anyone that's going out to create your own healing journey, heal not for you. Like Brother Don Core teaches us in our retreats when we get together, if you're not waking up every day as a black man, I can only speak for black men because that's what I am and I identify who I hang out with, but if you're not waking up every day thinking about the work you're doing today and how it's going to affect your grandchildren's grandchildren, you need to stop, look in the mirror and see how selfish you really are. Because that's the mission. Not for you, it's for them. So that's what I would leave. If you're going on a healing journey, heal not for yourself, heal so that you can be a conduit for those ones that ain't even born yet. So that's it.
Yes.
I always recommend just discovery in any way, not curiosity, because you can get in trouble there, but discovery, because it can be anything. I mentioned earlier how a lot of us, will pretend our cup is already full. We'll say, hey, you should try yoga. I tried it already, it didn't work. You should eat a little better. I'm fine, I don't have any disease.
Right.
You should read a book. I don't have time to read. It's like I'm already full. So where's the room gonna be for growth?
Right.
Exactly. But discovery, you acknowledge you don't know everything, and if it can start with the smallest thing, and then that's enough not to humble you, but for you to take a step back and start asking that should question, should I do this or should I do that, as opposed to someone told me to do this. Right. And it's gonna work this way because it worked for them. Because I have a lot of people reach out to me and they'll go, well, teach me what you know. And I'm like, but you're still not gonna be myself, just like I'm not gonna be you. Because you don't know, what I went through, I don't know what you went through. But when you start discovering different things, you're looking at it from a whole different angle that's gonna take you further than anything I could teach you. Yeah. So that's why I promote, just discovery, but when you start asking that should question, it allows you to kind of hit the pause button and start to look at things objectively, where you're not one-sided on things anymore. You don't overthink, but you're able to separate the two, where it could be something small, like should I break up that fight? Should I? And then you notice that you should just start doing, the common denominator is doing kind of the right thing. Right. And then with doing that, you get more satisfaction. It kind of opens up the channels in your body so you can just flow. And then once you start flowing, now you're on your path to, healing whatever it is that you might heal, So.
Love that, thank you. Yeah. Genie, Venita, any advice for anybody who's getting
I think
ready
just not even think, I know, is that you're so worthy of love, abundance, and prosperity. And if I said that and made you uncomfortable, then that's something that you need to work on within yourself and find out what it is inside of you that is stopping and blocking your blessings. And knowing that trauma is stored within the body as a defense mechanism, and the way that we've evolved as humans is due to trauma also, like trauma from weather, trauma from our conditions. So when we experience a traumatic experience, it's stored within our body. And because our body's like, oh, the world is changing, we gotta evolve, so, and we're passing that on to other people. We're, whether through the womb or even through our interactions with each other. We're passing that on, and we have to break that cycle. And being someone who is a colonized creation, me being Puerto Rican, it's also healing that intergenerational trauma, and not just honoring our ancestors that suffered, but also healing the ancestors that did this, that were the oppressors. So it's all of those things. It's not just like worshiping your good ancestors, also saying, addressing the colonizers and the people that caused your ancestors pain, because you were related to those people too. And it's a lot of work. Be gentle with yourself. Yeah. And don't be afraid to reach out to other people, because that's how it starts, and that you are so worthy of that journey.
Read. Read, read, read.
Yes.
Read, read, read. She talked about trauma. There's a book by our beautiful Dr. Bessel van der Kolk, and he has a book called The Body Keeps the Score. The Body Keeps the Score, and he talks about the trauma that's hidden in our bodies. And again, I specialize in working with trauma. I do EMDR, I do brain spotting and different types of modalities, Reiki and all that. And we have to release ourselves. But read, educate yourself. Be not conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And with that, you can free yourself and evolve and be Be all you can be. That's what you deserve.
Absolutely. Thank y'all so much. Every revolutionary act is an act of love, and the most silent revolution that you can create is self-love, acknowledging your self-worth, and beginning to heal yourself so you can go out and to heal your community. I want to definitely mention that we do have some really beautiful artwork behind our panelists today that was created by our own Bryan McAskill. And with that being said, I would love to just kind of go down the line and just let everybody know where they can find you, your Instagram handle, your website. We know we want to get those followers. We want people to join in community with us. So please just let everybody know where they can find you all.
On Facebook, Bryan McAskill. Herbal Healing is herbal.healing781 on Instagram, and I have my personal bio on there as well.
Word. You can find me at Woman. It's spelled like the womb, WOMBXN. Also formerly known as This Is Chrystian on social media, so that's on all platforms. I would like to, not as shameless, but a loving plug, which would be May 8th. There is a Mother Love Tour that's through the Woman brand that I am a part of, I created, where I would love everyone from 9 to 12 to go live and clean up your block, own your block, whether that's learning how to protect it, clean it, own it, whatever it is. But from 9 to 12, I would appreciate everyone, wherever you are. You could be traveling in Puerto Rico, enjoying some sun. If you see something on that beach, clean it, pick it up. We need it, we deserve it. Our love for Mother Earth is essential. We wouldn't be here if it wasn't, so.
That's dope.
Word, thank you.
I'm Yoga Mike. You can find me, I mean, my personal page is Yoga Mike _617, I think. I don't know. I still write with a pencil, that's me. I'm just trying to sound cool like all these young folks. My business page on Instagram is 33 Degree Mind and Body. But if you really just want to kick it with me, I got a spot right in Mattapan Square, right in the hood, right on top of Frugal Furniture. I got a suite up there, it's a massage suite. The address is 1601 Blue Hill Ave, right on the Ave. Come check me out, man. If you just want to get a massage, if you just want to build, if you want to do a one-on-one yoga session or something like that. Starting this summer, I'm partnering up with another local vendor. He goes by the name of D Candyman. He makes infused edible goods. So every other Sunday, we're gonna have a little edible yoga for those of you who like to get high and twist and shout. So stick with it, man. Yoga Mike got y'all backs, literally and figuratively. And that's all I got to say.
You can find me on geniesantiagomusic.com. And just a few like loving plugs like that you said that. I have an album coming out this year called Inner Space, and the lovely Jazzmyn is featured on a very beautiful, the last song on the album. And it's full of so much love, and thank you for putting so much love and energy into that song. But I have shows coming up in the fall. I'm not doing anything this summer because, you know, I don't feel called yet for that. But in the fall, I have shows booked, and I'm actually collaborating with the Museum of Science for my album release concert, Inner Space, and it is going to be free, 100% accessible for everybody. And so, you know, and Jazzmyn will also hopefully be performing.
Oh, you know,
the song that we did together there.
Call
and
me, I'll be there.
Everyone should be allowed to come into spaces, and so I wanted to make the Museum of Science an accessible space for us. So I hope that you can come. It'll be in November.
And I'm Venita Qualls. You can find me on Psychology Today.
Thank y'all so much. And I'm Jazzmyn Red. Y'all can find me at Jazzmyn Red just about everywhere. We thank you all for joining us tonight and speaking your truth and inspiring the people who have been listening to you, inspiring me for sure. I really feel blessed to have, you know, been able to build community with y'all and share this space with y'all. So I just want y'all to know that. We thank y'all for tuning in and, you know, listening in to us. And I hope your spirit feels a little lighter, your aura feels a little brighter. I hope that you are inspired tonight. And we're sending you peace and love and prosperity always. Thank you, Puberty Essex Museum. Thank you, Rec Shop Movement. And y'all have a great night. Peace and blessings. We love y'all.